Hello and welcome back to Wario Land 2. On last episode we dealt with the Uncanny Mansion, which was only present in our dreams. Whereas here we have a very real and very mean and very interesting secret exit to deal with. So let's handle the very mean first. This secret exit's a little devious. You have to break this joint block to be able to find it, and then there's some breakable walls that you have to get through. A little mean, but you know, whatever. Once you get past here, there's just a flat Wario arrangement to deal with. Nothing too bad. The reason why it's interesting though is it's seemingly out of order in terms of how all the other levels are ordered. Every secret exit up until now, or secret chapter I should say, is almost chronological in terms of how the maps go. Like from Invade Wario Castle branching off of 1-1 and Go to the Cellar branching off of 1-5, the map pieces align correctly with the map pieces you get in the main story. But this one and Uncanny Mansion are seemingly switched, because Uncanny Mansion branches off at 1-5, at 4-5, and this one branches off at 4-4, which you can see on the map now. I'm editing this in afterwards, so at least I hope it's there. But they're seemingly switched. It's kind of interesting, and you're probably wondering why I did it that way, but I'm following the order that the map pieces are revealed to you, because if you saw in the last episode, we got the map pieces for the first half of the bottom row. This episode, we'll be getting the map pieces for the second half of the bottom row, and so it's kind of weird that they're seemingly switched, and I don't exactly know why they did that, but that's the way it is, and that's the way we're going to be handling it. So let's just jump right into some new levels. Having found a detour through the factory, we were able to cut off Captain Surf and her nefarious Black Sugar Gang from making it to the wonderful basketball game, I guess they ordered tickets to. I mean, that's where they're going. They weren't going to their castle just yet, because they're going to Story 5, anyone for B-Ball. But they're going to take a load off their feet and ride this conveyor belt. Even this little guy is going to enjoy the conveyor belt, even though he sees Wario right behind him. Because, I mean, they've been running a lot. It's time to take a load off your feet. Even Wario, who is so just pissed that his money is not his, is going to take a load off his feet until this guy speeds up a conveyor belt, which is not a game mechanic. The only game mechanic you can use conveyor belts for is to switch the direction they are going in. So I scoffed at this humorous little scene they presented us with. As we enter the final chapter, Mysterious Factory, Story 1, Defeat the Giant Spearman. Yes, it is time to once again defeat a giant spearman. It's a Story 1, Defeat the Giant Spearman quota that we gotta meet. I mean, this is like the third one of these we've seen. It's kind of interesting that they, start piling these on a lot near the end. I'm guessing it's just because it's like they had so many level ideals already. It was just like, hey, you want to make the game a little bit more interesting, I guess, and remove a door here and just make them kill a giant spearman, which, I mean, arguably making it more interesting, I guess it does change it up, but the giant spearman doesn't put up much of a fight, so it's not really much of an added challenge, especially after you've killed him, like, what, this is like the 6th time we've seen him, I think? We've seen him quite a few times, though, is my deal. But unlike the giant spearman, this room actually puts up quite the fight, because these little snowmen can be annoying, to say the least. The snowmen can be used to your benefit, though, because what we're going to try to do is over here, there's another snowman in this little cubby here who will try and freeze us and not let us in. Now, the two ways you could try and accomplish this is to bait the snowman out, so he comes out of his cubby so you can kill him and get by, and that's what I'm going to try and do. Because the other method would be to get the snowman that's on our far left and get him to move him into such a spot that he could freeze us and we could slip past that snowman. The only problem with that is due to the spacing of the platforms, that's going to be a little hard, so what I prefer to do is just bait the snowman out. But sometimes baiting the snowman out can be kind of annoying because he will at some point realize that he doesn't need to move to continue shooting you, so he'll just stand there and just continuously fire ice blasts rather than trying to get closer to you, which can be annoying if you're trying to just get by him without too much trouble. I mean, too much trouble for you, you're going to murder him regardless, so it's trouble for him, so I guess I can understand his plight. And speaking of plights, we have the fisherman fish guys that we haven't seen since Maze Woods. It's such a weird enemy. We throw it like once at you, or twice at you in Maze Woods, and twice here and nowhere else in the game. It's kind of a weird enemy. This is an interesting optional arrangement. It's just a big shaft with enemies that just kind of patrol back and forth. They'll try and hit you with spikes, knock you off the big vertical shaft you're trying to get up, and you get rewarded with a lot of money. And that fish's coin changed position, so that's kind of interesting. It kind of spawned a new coin into the world for us, so thanks, fisherman. I would take the fishermen to the areas that they're guarding, quotation marks, but they don't really lead to anything new. They just loop you back, so they just kind of try and waste your time, so we're going to ignore them for now. But yeah, I really like that optional arrangement with climbing up the enemies in the tower. It's something you see a lot in the Wario Land games, where it's something you have to climb, and then there's just a bunch of enemies in your way. There was definitely a section like that in Wario Land 1, where there were like badgers throwing knives at you, etc. And do I want to go down here? I might jump down here just to see what's crack-a-lacking, because I'm not exactly sure what's down here. Oh, actually, I know which room we're in. Yeah, there's a bunch of money and birds down here that are going to try and stop us from achieving cash. But unfortunately for them, cash is in our blood, and we will get it regardless if they want us to have it or not. I think there's even like a secret there. Oh, no. I was gonna say there's like some secret coins down here, but that must be a different room. Okay, you can have that coin. Fair enough. I proved I wasn't responsible enough to have that coin. So that'll be the coin of shame, I suppose. Just, you know, sometimes you can't own every coin. Some coins are just problem children who don't want to be owned. So yes, this room is very interesting. A little elevator arrangement, unlike any elevator arrangement we've seen, because the elevators, we need them to progress upwards, but they all are also kind of a problem, because there are things at the top of the elevators. If the elevator reaches the top of its apex, it will, I don't know if apex is the right word, but if it reaches the top of its peak, if it gets all the way up, it's going to bump you into spikes, and you got to get off before then. So what you typically want to do is just hold right on the D-pad and you'll just run straight off the thing onto the safe platform. Because you also need the elevator. You can't just jump over it and call it a day. You need the elevator to be able to clear the jump to the next platform, and that was sweet. I accidentally pressed down on the D-pad, but everything worked out wonderfully. If this is the room I think it is, the far right should be the should be the treasure door. Let's see, is there a door up here? Yes, there is. This is the treasure door. Yeah, so this is the treasure door. Every other shaft except for the one that we're going to take, which is actually the one right next to the far left, second from the left, I suppose, or second from the right. Right and left are different directions. Every other shaft has cash in it. If you want to make some more money, you can go through there, but we have so much money that we don't really need to worry about it. The only thing we need to use money for even is to play the treasure game each level, and we have already gotten treasure, so who cares? I mean, we have so much money that we could probably write out the number game even if we got 0 coins for the rest of our days. And you know what? We can make sure that that was the final giant spearman we'll ever fight by checking it on our new personal computer, because I'm sure that was the final giant spearman, because there's no more giant spearmen that could possibly be in the game, because it's the final chapter, I promise. I mean, there's nothing more. There's nothing left. It has to be the last one. I'm gonna Google it on my PC. It is now time to get into the factory proper with Story 2, Into the Factory proper. That might as well be the name, because we're finally into factory tile set. It's been one whole grueling story of no factories, but here we are in the factory, my god. It kind of makes me wonder if they were like, hey, I want to use a factory tile set in this game, because I want a factory world, should we make a factory level to kind of lead the player in the main story and kind of give them a teaser for it, or if it was like, hey, here's a factory level, we could expand upon it with some game mechanics that, we would need a little bit more time to expand upon with the full world, and, we're gonna have to make a different asset for it, or different assets, I should say, for it anyways, want to make a factory world. I assume the level came before the world, just like I assume the chicken came before the egg. I mean, it'd be crazy if there were chickens before there were eggs. I mean, my god. But yes, I assume the level came before the world, and I assume they didn't just jump into game dev, and they got to the part where they had to make this level, and then we're like, oh, or they had to make the factory level in town, and we're like, we could probably just expand upon this. We already have the assets, because that would be kind of foolish to jump into game dev without a better plan than just make stuff, see what happens later. I mean, that kind of happens sometimes when you work on big projects, but I mean, I assume the levels were planned out a little bit better than that, especially since, we have, brand new content for some, chapters. It would be weird if they just jump straight into it and then we're like, oh, hey, we can reuse some stuff for more levels, since, it didn't take as long as we thought it would to make. You probably wouldn't see new assets used then, which we do, so I assume the level came before the world. So I don't even know why I posited that thought. I mean, I guess I took the thought and I ran with it until I finished it, so I guess that's why. And unfortunately for us, we got hit with crazy Wario right at the end, and I think the only way to get out of here is to go through that little gauntlet again. So whoopsie-doopsie, we're gonna have to, once again, brave the squishy compactors with spikes on them that have conveyor belts leading to them. That's kind of this, chapter in a nutshell. this chapter is maybe conceptually less interesting than the Uncanny Mansion in my eye. More so because the Uncanny Mansion has some interesting concepts for the like level mechanics that kind of fit the spooky tone like real well. Like, oh, you know, enemies appearing when you go through doors. You don't know why the world's changing around you. I mean, we as players do, but Wario doesn't. It's weird and it's scary. But this level, like, the things conceptually fit a factory, don't get me wrong. Everything is tonally correct and also totally correct, just like Uncanny Mansion. It's just the level concepts themselves are just inherently less interesting, I feel, than Uncanny Mansions. That was also inherently a treasure door. That sentence doesn't entirely make sense, but that was the treasure door. I just feel like the Uncanny Mansion may have more interesting level concepts about it, due to kind of the weird atmosphere, and they kind of have more abstract mechanics to fit it, and it's really neat, and I enjoy it. Whereas this one, it's more like, oh, you know, we have some factory pieces we can kind of use. Here's a conveyor belt, here are gears that function exactly like conveyor belts, here's squishy things, here's things that squish you that have spikes on it, my god, that's about it. And then there's also owls, which are nice, but there are also owls in the mansion, and the owls were a better fit in the mansion, but I mean, I guess owls can live in the factory as well. I mean, everyone needs a 9 to 5, I mean, you gotta make that paper somehow, or I guess in this world it's that metal. It'd be very inconvenient to carry around just a bunch of coins, but I mean, I guess people did it for years. Thousands of years, I assume? But that's neither here nor there. I just feel this chapter is just less interesting than Uncanny Mansion. Not that it's a bad chapter, mind you. Just less interesting than Uncanny Mansion. Uncanny Mansion and In Town are probably my highlights for the game. In Town, I guess, has the train level to round out the urban levels, and it also has the factory level, which at the time is like, oh, cool, you know, another level to change the pace of the aesthetic. We have a new tile set here. It's interesting. But I guess that's all I'm gonna harp on about that, because that'd be kind of annoying just to keep talking about that for the entire episode, which is why I'm going to do it. This arrangement here with Flat Wario is kind of annoying. It's a really long Flat Wario segment. If you screw up, there's quite a ways to go, because that entire segment that I just took, if I were to mess this up, I would have to repeat all of that and go back to the beginning. Luckily, I'm not going to mess this up, because we're right here at the ending, but were you to screw up, you'd have to redo all of that again, and that takes a while to reset this arrangement, and the arrangement itself is kind of long. And near the end of the arrangement, they have that stupid bat in that corridor, which the only way to get the bat to not pick you up is to jump into it, and sometimes it can be a bit difficult, because you're coming in as Flat Wario, and then you have to jump, which sometimes you don't clear that and the bat grabs you and it sucks. But, I mean, the gears of time will continue to spin, I suppose. After that last story left a bit of a sour taste in our mouth at the end, we have ironically, a breath of fresh air with Story 3, Move Through the Water, because we're underwater, and breathing underwater is not advised, even for Wario, who doesn't breathe, question mark? I mean, he doesn't need to breathe down there, whether or not he breathes normally. Maybe he's like a whale and can just stay down there longer than we'll ever be able to wait him out. That would actually be kind of funny if, like, you're invincible underwater. Well, not invincible underwater, but you can't die underwater. In like a video game, it's just like, oh, you know, I don't need to breathe in the game, but like there's just some weird thing in the game just programmed, like if you're down there for like 7 hours, just your character will get like die and you get a game over or whatever. Just something weird like that. That'd be like a real dick move if someone just left it like playing. They'd come back and they'd be like, what killed me? But I mean, granted, they just left the game unpaused for 7 hours, so I mean, what killed them doesn't need to be entirely obvious at that point, but it'd be a mean move, and it's just, I guess, something more interesting I was thinking about. So yes, we're going back to turning off faucets. Yes, we're returning back to our roots with Story 3 of Chapter 1 of Turn Off the Faucet, I think the name of the level is. But yes, we have to turn off faucets to stop water currents, because had we left that faucet on, that water current would have continued and pushed us back to where we began, because there was a water current from the beginning of the level that we saw. So were we to have left the faucet on, we would have been brushed back to the beginning of the level and would have had to repeat everything up until now. While this level is mostly aquatic, they do have little sections like this to break up the swimming gameplay with some land gameplay, which is funny because generally it's the other way around, where you have swimming gameplay to break up land gameplay, even though swimming, breaking... Okay, because breaking up gameplay is very important. It kind of gives your player, like, something new to do, kind of change the pace up, and it's, you know, appreciated. It's like, oh, hey, you know, here's something new to do. But typically, swimming is something platformers bank on. Like, I mean, even Wario banks on it. But typically, swimming is just kind of bad in video games, where it's just slow and just kind of obnoxious. You can swim pretty quickly in this game, and the controls aren't that bad, so I'm not going to harp on them. it's just kind of interesting that swimming's become kind of a standard, like, let's break up gameplay kind of thing. In fact, to the point where I think swimming's just present in games because people think, like, oh, I need to use water in my game because, you know, it's water. It's so present in our lives that it's like, you know, let's just throw swimming in there, as opposed to let's throw swimming in there for this purpose. It's more, less of a ends to a mean and more of just an end. I don't know a better way to say that. Sorry. Not an English major. I don't have concise good thoughts. I only have bad good thoughts. This arrangement here with these hammering gorillas is interesting. You could get hit by the gorillas and jump all the way up to the top, but if you were to do that, you would more than likely get hit by the spikes, which I'm about to do because I accidentally got bopped while I was trying to bop him on the head, but I mean, I guess we got more money off of it in the end, so I mean, it all worked out. And oh man, that guy can like just kind of snipe you because he is like just barely entering his animation. And now since I was hit, Wario has to lifelessly fall to the ground, and I'm just gonna start killing these guys, I suppose. Luckily, I was hit near the bottom, so I can actually use this this little thing here to stop me from bouncing. Where I am on the other side, there's also a bit of space where the platform will let you fall through, just in case you accidentally killed that that hammer ape up there. You could also jump right there if you were on the other side, but I am not, so I'm just going to keep jumping here until it runs out, and then we'll make our way up there, and hopefully we'll not get hit by a hammer this time, and there we go. Because unfortunately that got way complicated at the end when it didn't need to be. Like, we had it clutched, we had our victory clutched and then just died multiple times for no reason. We didn't actually die, I suppose, but die is just like one of those words. It's like, oh, I died in a game, like instead of like, you know, oh, I messed up, oh, you know, I was defeated, something like that. Like even in Pokemon, you're like, oh yeah, I killed them, or, you know, oh man, I died. When it's Pokemon, it's friendly dogfighting. There's no killing involved. Just, you know, good, wholesome dogfighting. Nothing bad there. And that was sarcastic. That was sarcastic in that there isn't anything bad there. It is just friendly dogfighting. It's kind of funny that they've devised a system that is literally friendly dogfighting. But I guess that's neither here nor there, because we have the end of the level, and I find the end of this level very interesting, because we have the exit right here, but there's also something that changes our priorities a little bit if you are so inclined to get all the treasure and such in the game. I mean, obviously there's another fire arrangement in here that we can interact with to get more money, which we're going to do after I fail it a couple times, probably. Hopefully we can only fail it once, though. But that switch there turned off a faucet, and if you remember, there was, there was a current, a water current in our way. So we're going to go back and interact with that water current and see what the hubbub is, and for some reason my A button doesn't seem to want to work with me properly, but I think I got it. So yes, we've kind of changed our priorities just a little bit now, because we have, oh, can the fire, oh good, the fire ran out just at the nick of time. Now that we've turned off that current, we can go back and check out what's in that door that we saw back there. But also, since we turned off the water level is going to be lower. And if you remember, there was those moving blocks that we saw earlier in the level. Now that those moving blocks are lowered, we can get into that area that we saw previously when I broke through those boxes. Right after the store of the boxes, we came down here. The moving block stopped us from progressing any farther in here, which, I mean, granted, this is just for some cashola in the bankrolla, and I would definitely take that shiny coin. I think that's the second one we've gotten this level, question mark? Maybe I'm just confusing everything, just everything's blending together. Maybe we got it last level. I don't know. I've played so much of this freaking game, it's understandable. But yes, we turned off this current here, which allows us to go in that door, and that door is actually the treasure door. But more importantly, there's money up here, and by more importantly, I mean less importantly, because the treasure door is the most important thing in the level. Your big priorities are the treasure door and actually finishing the level. I mean, everything other than that is just window dressing and extra coins, which I don't mind if I do. I mean, I don't need the money at this point, but I will be damned if I allow those swordfish to have the money, because that is rightfully my money. So I kind of like the ending of this level, like I was saying. It's just kind of interesting. You get to the end of the level, and then it just changes your priorities if you want 100% it. It's kind of interesting. Kind of interesting, like the sands of time, because time is weird, and I'm gonna have to workshop this one a little bit. And now it's time to Don't Shock the Owl. Yes, time for another dedicated owl level, and this one's maybe more owl-centric than the other one. In fact, the main room of this entire level is just this giant owl maze. So that's why we're going to be fast-forwarding through this with, once again, the wonderful Wario Land Shake It accompaniment. Every single arrangement in here is not too difficult, so I opted to just fast-forward through them as opposed to what I had been doing previously, like what we did in ruins at the bottom of the sea, because it's not too important that we see all these. We've run through the entire gauntlet of the game. This is the last main chapter of the game. I mean, it's an alternate chapter, but it's the last, like, complete chapter of the game. So, I mean, we've seen all of this before. We are old hats at Wario Land 2. Like that room that we were just in, all we had to do was smash our way to the bottom and then break an enemy block. It's not a difficult arrangement at all. There's not too much to talk about there. Something that is funny about this level is, despite the level's name, Don't Shock the Owl, you could ram the owl into those electric-y squares, no problem. The owl does not care. The only thing that will matter is if you bop Wario on a hazard. The owl, totally invincible. Even more invincible so than Wario. Perhaps Wario has been training with the owls. Maybe that's the in-canon reason that is never mentioned in canon for why he can do that. Also, I take full advantage of that of this little trick that I like to do, where you can drop straight through the electric-y bits. Well, you can drop through any hazard, really, because you have you have a few seconds of invincibility frames, not a couple frames, that's much less than a couple seconds. But you have a couple seconds of invincibility when you're released from the owl, unlike there, where I just ran straight into the wall. So if you let go of the owl, sometimes you can just drop straight through hazards, and I like to use that to save some time on occasion, just because it's like, why would I waste the time going around if I could just let go if I know that there's a platform underneath me? Granted, that could be a little risky, because sometimes there might not be a platform there, or there might be a platform you thought was there, and it's just slightly off-center, so it's a dangerous move, but it's not something that you're going to need to master or anything, because as you can see, like, we made it to the end of the game with not too difficult of owl arrangements. That chef room is not too bad. You just have to make it through a small chef gauntlet. Like right there, I just used it to drop down through an electric bit, because I just wanted to get straight to the owl. That chef arrangement wasn't too difficult at all. You just break the first block, and you have to make it through without getting chefed up until the end. And they have some weight blocks that they try to trick you into breaking, but they just would hamper you were you to break them. So if you ever become Fat Wario while you're in there, you should just stop and just walk into a wall until it wears up. This arrangement's a little boring. There's a bunch of ants in your way, and you just have to ram your way through to get some money. I guess the money being the money that comes out of the box. Like, I got lucky and there was a shiny coin there, but there wasn't, like, too much to get in there other than just the coins that you would have gotten from the boxes. And ants, as I've said previously, are a very annoying enemy, so the entire arrangement's just about not getting hit by the ants, but the ants don't really have the sight to kind of notice you and deal with you in that way. Also, I asked a question last episode of, like, oh, is there just one owl that moves around? Or, is it just different perches or whatever? But there are different owls. This level confirms it. You can see all the owls. Also, that was the treasure room. We've kind of blown through this level just fast-forwarding through it. And I kind of apologize, but here at the end, I really screw it up because I want to use this enemy to destroy these enemy blocks because there's coins up there that I could get. But I accidentally destroyed too many and was unable to get them. So I kind of panic a little bit and try and figure out what I should do. I'm like, should I grab this guy and try and, rectify it? But honestly, I couldn't get it. And I've already had recording errors, which I guess we'll talk about next level. But that's, let's drop it, because we got a cool Metroid. A Metroid who's based on the graphic is winking at us? I mean, I can get behind that. Hey, baby. And now it's time for the final level in the game, a final chapter, Mysterious Factory, final story, Awaiting Syrup. And spoilers, I had to re-record this episode. So there's actually a feature in this game, if you replay a boss level, you can actually skip straight to the boss, but we will not be doing that because you guys, the people, have not seen what the end of this level looks like. You haven't seen this level, period. I don't know why I said the end of this level. But yes, I had to re-record these episodes due to some recording error on my part. It's weird, the file works, doesn't work in Vegas, I assume it's just too big, and I could not think of a good way to fix the problem in a timely manner, so I just decided, hey, I'll just re-record the episode in smaller bite-sized bits. So there's your meta talk for the time. Now that we're back into the game, rather than some stupid BS about recording an LP, this is kind of an interesting our Hot Wario arrangement, excuse me. Because you never really see Hot Wario used in this way, where you have to run and kill these slimes. And actually, that was really sweet being able to get up here to break that last fire block. Because you would assume that you would need to be on fire to kill the slimes, but when you're running past them, Wario just runs straight past them, murdering them in the process. It's kind of interesting, something that doesn't come up anywhere else in the game, so it's kind of interesting. An interesting arrangement, in my opinion. There was more fire blocks we could have broken for some more money, but we have enough money in the game. And in fact, I don't need any more money in the game, because since I'm re-recording this. But that's neither here nor there. It was like 6 coins. I was not going out of my way for 6 coins. That's the kind of man I am. 6 coins, not worth my time. Wario may be like, you know, I would probably spend a couple hours trying to get 6 coins. But, you know, we ourselves are not Wario. Wario, at the moment, is a slave to our will, unfortunately. He has to do our bidding, and our bidding was to not get hit by penguins, but unfortunately, we have been made crazy. Little known fact, it's drunk in the Japanese version, but you didn't know that? Definitely. You definitely haven't heard that elsewhere, or been mentioned here or anything. Like, oh, gosh dang it, I thought I had hit up on the thing, and this guy managed to snipe us at the last moment. And this is probably the most annoying place he could have hit us, too, because getting through these, like, little, like, one-by-one holes is very difficult as a crazy warrior. I almost combined the word drunk and crazy, and there we go. This time we were able to get in. The animation actually fired off the way I thought it did. Or thought it would, I should say. Here's a little hidden area that's a little mean. I mean, it's just coins, so it's not, like, imperative that you find it or anything. It's not like the treasure door's down here, but, the only way to get down here is to break that one joint block. There's a joint block on the other side, but that does not take you to where you want to go. And I guess it was good luck that we got hit by that, because we actually needed to be turned into Spring Wario to get up here. Because that door right there is the treasure door. But getting down there's a bit mean, because there's 2 joint blocks, but only the one on the left side breaks. So if you're not, like, immediately like, oh, hey, that's different flooring, you're not going to find that area, more than likely. And I like how I'm still cutting, even though I've already told you, like, oh, hey, I've already recorded this. I have the treasure there. I don't need to play it. But it's just habit at this point that it's just like, oh, I go in the treasure door. I make a comment about the treasure door. I go in. We move on with our lives. I take the cut. I take the shot. Unfortunately, though, my brain didn't process that, you know, I don't need to cut until we got here. I mean, I guess I also didn't tell you guys that I was re-recording that until now. I mean, granted, you might have noticed due to our inflated coin count, etc., but that's neither here nor there, which is a thing that I've also been saying a lot since we started this recording. Just one of those, gimme transition words, I guess, that I found and I guess I like. Here we are in the boss chamber, but of course, it wouldn't be Wario Land 2 if we didn't just immediately just give up on the boss. In fact, we didn't even let the boss spawn. We instead just decided to continue onwards. So we could get, like 40 extra coins that we don't need, who cares? But we'll continue onwards anyways, because, I mean, we like money. And like you might have been able to tell by the story name, Awaiting Syrup, Syrup's decided she does not want to be a damsel in distress anymore. I mean, granted, she is our antagonist first and foremost, but for the last few chapters, she has been able to defeat me, dang. But for the last few chapters, she has been the damsel in distress, like, captured Syrup in ruins at the bottom of the sea, the ghost managed to capture her, so it's kind of interesting that after 2 chapters in a row of, oh hey, she's been captured, now it's back to just straight up, hey, I'm your antagonist, idiot, you gotta fight me. And despite the fact that I just lost, she's a very, very easy boss. She has her little floating, like, Eggman teacup thing. And here she's going to try and sine wave you, and all you gotta do is stay on the ground and punch her in the face. Once you break the dome with a couple hits, she's going to throw these mines at you, and the mines are the harder part of the fight, because they kind of swoop in at you. If they hit you, they'll more than likely knock you off. All you gotta do is jump on them, and they become a bomb that you throw at her. They're going to try and change it up by, that one was a little bit higher than the last one, and this third one can be the doozy, because what it's going to do is lock on us and home in. But once you get it, it's not that bad. You gotta throw it quickly at her. She's a very simple boss, not bad at all. Has a very quick refresh time. You can get to her very simply. It doesn't take much long to get back to her. But there you go, that's the last boss in the game. There's certainly nothing else, no other bosses left in the game. And this is my favorite treasure in the game, because it's a Game Boy Color. I mean, it could have just been an original Game Boy, but it's purple now, so it's a Game Boy Color. And this just made me so ecstatic as a kid, because I was like, it's a purple Game Boy Color. It's just like mine. I mean, I had a see-through one, but I mean, it's Game Boy Color game. You couldn't tell that, really. It just made me so happy to see that. And we've already completed the number matching game. So unfortunately, we're not going to see the final tile fall down in. But you will see what happens when the map is completed. This sparkle appears and bothers you for till the end of time. It's a shame I couldn't show the final sparkle going in, but I mean, I have other footage that will make it up for you. I have things to show you that are cool. But right now, we have a very cool ending. Where I guess the destruction of Syrup's mech blows up the factory and sends them packing. Normally, that's the like last level we would have completed. Normally, you would get a scene where Wario's like, you know, great, you did a good job if you managed to get all the map panels and all the treasure in the game. I have that recorded on a different file, though, and we'll be showing it next episode. What? Next episode? I know, that's crazy! How can there be a next episode? That was the final level in the game. Well, not so fast, buckaroo, because getting all the treasure and all the maps in the game unlock maybe an extra level and maybe a little mini game that we can play. Who knows? Maybe we'll see in the next episode. Wario just has to make his trek back again, so we'll let him do that. But for now, I'm gonna call this an episode, and I'll see you guys next time for the really final chapter. I'll see you guys then.